Gopashtami. So we will see some details about Gopashtami and then linking it back to this current verse at hand. So in the scriptures, when Krishna's age is being described, this is the verse which is quoted. Kaumaram Panchamabdantam Paugandam Dashamavati Kaishoram Apanchadashat Yavanam tu Tataparam. So this verse says Kaumaram Panchamabdantam, means the Kaumara, that is Krishna's age, especially his stay in Vrindavan, is divided into three ages. So each of those ages he actually spent in approximately 3.5 years, each age. So he had three stages of different ages during his stay in Vrindavan. And then at the stage of Yavana, he went from Vrindavan to Mathura. So in Vrindavan, the three ages that he displayed are called as Kaumaram, Paugandam, and Kaishoram. So Kaumaram is considered as the babyhood. So the Kaumara stage lasts until age of 5, and Pauganda is the age which lasts up until 10, and Kaishora is the age until 15, and from then on one is known as Yavana. So in this age of Kaumara, called as Kaumara, which is until 5 years, Krishna performed various pastimes. So from his appearance in Mathura, going to Vrindavan, and pastimes of killing Putana or Trinavarta or Shakatasura, or after becoming a little older, like growing up for a few more months, he started crawling, he started playing with the mud, he started playing with other small calves and within the household, and also he started stealing butter from other households of Vrindavan, and also this Damodar pastime which we are celebrating in this month, Kartik, that also happened in this age of Kaumara. And after that, in the age of Pauganda, which is from the age 6 to 10 years, Krishna performed pastimes like herding cows or or killing different demons like Dhenuka Pralambasur. Of course, they were killed by Balaramji. However, that happened during the age of Krishna called as Pauganda. And also Krishna chastised Kaliya. So in this way, he performed various pastimes during his age called as Pauganda from the age 6 to 10 years. And in his age from 11 to 15 years, Krishna is called as Kaishora. So when Krishna was in the Kaishora Avastha, in the age of Kaishora, he performed mainly pastimes with the gopis. That various pastimes along with the gopis happened during this age. And also he killed many demons during this age, like Arishtasur or various other demons like Shankachuda, and all these people, they are actually killed during this Kaishora age. So these are the three different ages that Krishna manifested in Vrindavan. He eternally exists in Kaishora age, in the Kaishora form in Vrindavan. And after attaining the Yavana age, when he was about to attain the Yavana age, that is when he moved to Mathura. So let's see where does Gopashtami fall? When does this particular occurrence that we are seeing today, this particular auspicious festival, Gopashtami, in which age it falls and why does it fall in that age, we will see. So in the Padma Purana, Kartik Mahatmya, there is a beautiful verse explaining about this day of Gopashtami. So the verse goes like this: Shuklashtami Kartike tu Smrita Gopashtami Bhudai Tad Dinad Vasudevo Abhud Gopaha Purvam tu Vatsapa. So here Shukla Ashtami means the 8th day of this particular Kartika month, which is called as Shukla Ashtami to Kartiketu. In this month of Kartik, the 8th lunar day of the bright fortnight is considered or is known by authorities as Gopashtami. Budaihi is intelligent people or authorities, Gopashtami. Why? Because on that day, Lord Vasudev, Lord Krishna, served as a cowherd. Tad dinat Vasudevo abhut. That day he became, Vasudev became Gopaha. He became a cowherd. Purvam tu Vatsapaha. Before that, what was he? Because he's eternally, he is Gopal, he is Govinda. So how are we saying that? Vasudevo abhut Gopaha. And what was he before? He was Purvam tu Vatsapa. He was actually tending cows. He was not tending cows. From this day, he actually started tending cows. So we will see what is the details of tending calves or tending cows. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 11, if you read, you will see how the pastimes of Krishna growing from babyhood, and he is going to enter into the Pauganda age. So around 5 years, the last stages of Kaumara. So when he is actually growing up, he actually sees, uh, they could see the difference. Like he's more interested. He's trying to play with the calves more. He's trying to spend time outdoors more. And also he's trying to spend time with his uncles. So then seeing that, Nanda Maharaj and everyone, all the other elders decide that Krishna should start tending cows. However, they understand you can directly tend the cows. First, you have to be tending the calves for some time. So that is why they decide, Evam rajauka sampritim yachanto balacheshtitai kalavakyai swakalena vatsapalau bhavuvatu. So the residents of Vrindavan actually on the same day, Gopashtami, on the same eighth lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik, in this same day, they also make Krishna for the first time herd calves. What is the difference? Because all these days when he is not herding, he never goes out along with his father or other cowherd men to the forest. He always stays at home under the care of Mother Yashoda. But this is the first time he is going to actually go out of home without the strong overseen over without being always overseen by Mother Yashoda. However, when he is herding calves, he could only go as long as Mother Yashoda could see him from their home. He could not go beyond that. He could only go with the calves to the distance that she could actually see from her eyes, with her eyes. So that's why still he was not very satisfied. He was not having all the independence. So he was having the calves, and here in this verse it is said, in this way, when Krishna and Balram, acting like small boys, Bala Cheshtitai, and talking in half broken language. As very small kids growing up, they were talking in half broken language. And the residents of Vrindavan, they were taking such transcendental pleasure from this act of Krishna and Balaram speaking in half broken language. And then, as they were growing up in due course of time, the cowherd men actually made them take care of calves because they have now grown up, so they are given first to take care of the calves. So that also happened on this day of Gopashtami. So then they were called as not Gopal, they were called as Vatsapal. And this is the time the pastimes like liberating Vatsasur and various other pastimes happens, especially after this episode, after they start to go out to tend calves. That is when the pastime of Vatsasur happens. So after some time of herding calves, they still grow up. So that is when they become, from Vatsapal, he becomes Gopal. He will start to herd cows. So that happens in that pastime is described in the chapter 15 of Canto 10. This is the chapter in which various other pastimes are also mentioned, but it starts with how Krishna enters the age called as Pauganda, which is the age between 6 and 10. Shri Shukavacha ततश्च पौगण्डवयश्रितौ व्रजे बभूवतस्तौ पशुपालसम्मतौ गाश्चारयन्तौ सखिभिः समं पदेत् Vrindavanam punyamativa chakratu. So Vrindavanam punyamativa chakratu. The land of Vrindavan is most auspicious. Why? Ativa chakrutu, extremely actually very auspicious, because Gascharayantau Sakhibihi Samam Pader, because the land of Vrindavan had the lotus footprints of Krishna on them. They actually carry the lotus footprints of Krishna on them. That is why the land of Vrindavan is considered most auspicious. Even the Mathura, the ladies in Mathura in the Canto 1, they glorify how Mathura is glorious, but Vrindavan is even glorious. So here Shukadeva Goswami is saying how when Lord Ram, that is Lord Balaram, and Lord Krishna attained the age of Pauganda, that is 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Now they were going out with calves, now because they have grown up, now they are given the opportunity to herd cows. And engaging thus in the company of their friends, both Krishna and Balaram actually made Vrindavan so auspicious, so fortunate by keeping their footprints all over Vrindavan. So, in this way, this chapter 15 of Canto 10 marks this day of Gopashtami. How at the age of Pauganda they actually started herding cows, and this day is called as Gopashtami. So, it happened on the same day, both they starting to herd calves and then like graduating to cows. Both the things happen on the day of Gopashtami. And the word Gopal, because here now from Gopashtami, actually officially Krishna becomes a Gopal. That means he becomes a cowherd. Eternally, he is actually a Gopal. However, for the sake of the pastimes, from this day he actually starts to herd the cows. So in Sanskrit, the word go can have various meanings. It can mean cows, it can mean senses, and it also can mean gopis, or it can also sometimes refer to Earth, the planet Bhumi. So we see this usage in various places. Like go being used as cows is very common. Go is being used as Goswami in the place of senses. So today we will take these two meanings, cows and senses. So the Pala is the maintainer or controller. Pala is one who maintains or controls the cows, go. Or if you take it as senses, one who actually maintains the senses. So there are certain things which is common to the senses and the cows. The cows or the calves, when you leave them on the fields, they'll be continuously charanti, they'll be continuously actually eating grass. It's just like they'll go on actually eating for a long time, and that is called as charan. So similarly in this world, the senses also, they always want some food. Cows also generally most of the day they'll be eating something, and similarly the senses, they need constant input. Our eyes or our ears or some of the senses, as long as we are active, we are not in the sleeping state, so all our senses need some kind of an input. That is the nature of the senses. And the cows, after they eat, what they do, they go and sit in one place, and they will actually start chewing whatever, they'll take it back, and then they chew everything that they actually ate. First they eat, they actually take the storage inside, they store it in a particular bag, and then they take it from there, and then they chew back nicely. There you will see a cow will always be eating something. In its mouth there will be some activity going on, even when it is sitting quietly in a shade, under a shade. So the same way the senses, they take a lot of inputs throughout the day. And what happens when we sit to chant or when we sit to travel, as soon as our senses like there is no active movement, say if we are traveling or if we are meditating or if we are doing any kind of activity which requires us to just sit down, not having active movement of the senses, then what happens, the mind starts taking out all those things that we already took in. Say, for example, we saw maybe a particular video or we heard a particular song, or a bhajan or kirtan or anything, or we had a conversation with some people, some other person, or we went out uh, for something, and then we saw something on the street. So some sensory activity has happened. The eyes have captured some information, the ears have captured information, the skin has captured some information, the nose has captured some information, the tongue has captured some information. In this way, all these senses have taken up some information. We have five knowledge gathering senses: eyes, ears, tongue, skin, and the nose. So these five knowledge gathering senses have gathered a lot of input. And when we sit for chanting or any kind of meditation, or just without being a little bit, like we have to, when we stay in one place, and then the mind starts become more active. Generally, the mind is always active, but now when we can't move, the mind becomes active. So what is the food for the mind? Like the cows, how they take out and then they start chewing on what they first ate. Similarly, the mind can only meditate on those things which we have given inputs. So the mind actually starts ruminating. It's called the process of rumination. So it starts thinking about those sensory inputs that we gave. So that is why it is generally said the quality of our life depends on the quality of our sense activities. Sense of quality of our sense activities, because general, I'm saying in general, the quality of life. Say if someone eats in a fine restaurant, and if someone eats on the on like on the street, some taken out from some trash can or something like that, it's the same sense activity of eating, but the quality of their eating, generally in general normal life, we tend to see that as deciding our quality of our life. Okay, someone lives in a such apartment, someone lives in on the streets, or such and such has a particular kind of bed, someone else has a someone else is sleeping on the floor. So generally the quality of our sense activities is what we consider it as the quality of our life. The same way, while in our spiritual life, the quality of our chanting depends on the quality of our life, in the sense how we act in our daily life. Like recently, I read a article by a devotee, and there how he was writing that the process of chanting is the quality of our chanting depends on quality of our life. In general, what do we do throughout the day? If I engage in activities which is not Krishna conscious, especially in my free time, the time that I can use however I want, during that time, if I engage in sense gratification, if I'm doing things which are not connected to Krishna, I'm not speaking about your work life, I'm not speaking about your responsibilities. In the free time that we have, if we engage in activities which are a sense gratification, for the satisfaction of the senses, instead of our whole life should be for the satisfaction of Krishna. However, while living in this world, there may be certain things we have to do and focus and like that. However, especially when you have free time, when the time is completely under your control, how you utilize this time, and that time when we use for sense gratification, instead of using it for remembering Krishna, hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, then and later during the day, when the time for chanting comes, we pick up the beads and sit and try to chant. Krishna is not going to reciprocate, or are going to let us chant very nicely. Say for example, you deal with a person in public, uh, actually in a very, you have a friend, and in public you chastise him, you disrespect him, and you ignore him. And in this way, if you behave with them badly in public, and then you come back to your place where you're staying together, and then you try to act very nice, it's not going to be easy for the friend to reciprocate with you the same way how you're reciprocating now indoors so nicely. Because the past, what you did before some time in public is going to affect his ability to connect with you. So Krishna also is a person. He also has feelings. When he sees that when we have all the time in the world for ourselves and we can decide what to do with that time, and we don't engage that time in remembering Krishna, chanting Krishna, reading about Krishna, and then when we sit for chanting and then we say, oh, let me engage in your service, Krishna, please, or rather, Rani, please engage me in the service of Krishna, it's actually a pretense. It's a pretension. And Krishna clearly knows this guy, when he has the time, he does not utilize it to in my service. And now he's sitting and actually making a show of asking for, oh, Radharani, please engage me in the service of Krishna. So it becomes a pretension, and Krishna will not reveal himself fully. We won't even have the ability to chant nicely or attentively because we don't use our time nicely. So that is why it is the quality of our chanting depends on how we utilize our time, the quality of our life. And also, it is said how the quality of our spiritual life depends on the quality of our determination. Because always the sense activities can be controlled with determination. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says this verse in chapter 3, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. Indriyani paranyahur. The matter, which this wall is also a matter, this table is also a matter, and my body is also a matter. We say, I'm not this, means this body is a material body, we say. So this body is also matter, this table is also matter. However, there is difference between these two matter. This matter is unconscious. This matter is unconscious, but it is currently in touch with consciousness. That is why it grows. It has various manifestations. It grows and it dwindles, and all these changes happen in this matter because this matter is in connection with the spirit. So, and then above these senses, and these I have senses, the same matter manifests as senses, eyes, nose, like that. So above the senses is mind, above the mind is intelligence, and above the intelligence is the spirit soul, and above the spirit soul is the super soul. So it is said that the quality of our spiritual life depends on the quality of our determination, because the sense activities is what deciding the quality of our spiritual life, what we do in our general life. If our sense activities are continuously in relation to Krishna, and if we can, and in that way we can easily be remembering Krishna, then that's our quality of our spiritual life. So the general senses are controlled by the mind is controlled by the intelligence. At least that's the way it should be. So, and the determination is a function of intelligence. So that is why it is said the quality of our determination, the quality of our intelligence, how our intelligence can take control of the mind and the senses and engage them in the right way, in the right activities. So that spiritually surcharged intelligence decides the quality of our spiritual life. That's why Vishnu Chakra Thakur writes, Vishaya Vishta Chittanam Vishnu Avesha Suduratah Varuni Digatam Vastu Vrajanna Indrim Kimapnuyat. So Vishnu Chakra Thakur writes in Madhurya Kadambani, Vishaya Vishta Chittanam means for those individuals whose minds are overtaken by material subject matters. Vishaya Vishta Chittanam, if their intelligence, if their chitta, if their consciousness is absorbed in Avishta, is completely absorbed in Vishaya, sense gratificatory things, especially in the time that they have, then Vishnu Avesha Suduratah, then they won't be able to spontaneously remember Krishna. So there is nothing, there is no use of sitting and crying, oh, why I'm not a pure devotee, why I cannot remember Krishna. It's just, we can make a show like that. Rather, we have to make or exercise our determination rightly when we have the time with us to engage in, to remember and to chant about Krishna. Then Krishna will reveal to himself to us. Then there will be spontaneous remembrance of Krishna in the later stages. So without any kind of deposits, we cannot expect interest. So Vishaya Vishta Chittana Vishnu Avesha Suduratah and Varuni Diggatam Vastu Vrajanna Indrim Kim Apnuyat. So there is no meaning, there is no reason in going to in spontaneous, like not utilizing our time rightly and then expecting ourselves to be absorbed in Krishna whenever we want. So it's like losing an object in the west and searching for it in the east. So he says it does not work like that. So I am actually running out of time. So this pastime of Gopashtami happened in the age of Pauganda, we saw. Similarly, connecting it to this verse, how we saw here, Prabhupada writes in this purport that we read today, that how the anger is due to false ego and ignorance. And here in this age of Pauganda, Krishna and Balaram perform of certain pastimes. And one of that pastime is killing of a demon called as Dhenuka. So this Dhenukasura, this demon Dhenuka, actually represents ignorance in the purport as well as in the translation we see in today, that how anger is due to false ego and also due to the ignorance. So here Dhenuka, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in Krishna Samhita, that Dhenuka represents ignorance, ignorance of one's own spiritual identity and identity of the holy name and identity of Krishna. So this ignorance is what is the false identity, which is arising out of this ignorance, false ego, and from that arises anger. That's what we saw in today's verse. And here in his Pauganda Leela, Krishna and Balaram actually liberate Dhenukasur. Specifically, Balaramji kills Dhenuka. And the reason that the Acharyas give why Balramji is asked to kill Dhenuka is because Dhenuka represents ignorance and Balramji represents, he's the Adi Guru, he is the original Guru. So Guru means one who gives knowledge. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we sing this verse every day, that the spiritual master gives with the torchlight of knowledge, he destroys the ignorance of a disciple. So Balramji being the Adi Guru, so he is the source of all knowledge. And he is the one with knowledge, generally ignorance is destroyed. That's why Balramji, who is the source of all knowledge, destroys ignorance, which is represented by Dhenukasur. And here also we see when a person takes shelter of the spiritual master and receives Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshayanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So Bhagavad Gita Krishna says that how when a person takes shelter of a realized spiritual master, that spiritual master can give the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, he can give it to the student. Where for that the student has to be surrendering unto the spiritual master and serving and inquiring. And based on that interaction of service and inquiry and submissive inquiry, then the knowledge will be transferred from the spiritual master to the disciple. And here, and that, through that only ignorance can be destroyed. And this verse comes in the Jnana Yoga, the 4th chapter, transcendental knowledge. How do we receive transcendental knowledge? So similarly here, Balramji representing being the Adi Guru destroys ignorance. Similarly, by taking shelter of spiritual master, instructions of the spiritual master, one can overcome the ignorance. And because we are dealing with the topic of anger, I'll quickly touch upon this topic, anger. We don't have a lot of time. So in general, anger is due to frustrated expectation, sometimes self-loathe or others' faults. Sometimes we become angry because others have behaved in a certain way. So then we feel very justified to actually experience anger. So in the Bhagavatam, there's a verse which says, "Kamam dahanti kritino nanudosha drishtya, rosham dahantamutate na dahantya sahyam, soyam yadantaram alam pravishan viveti, kama katam nu punarasya manapshrayeta." So in this verse, it is Lord Shiva and others, great stalwarts, they can actually overcome lust. But even those great personalities cannot overcome the influence of anger, because Lord Shiva, being so angry and disturbed with Cupid, he actually burnt Cupid. He just completely vanquished Cupid. But he came under the influence of anger. However, the Supreme Lord Vishnu, there is no trace of anger in him. that particular pastime of Bhrigumuni kicking Lord Vishnu in his chest proved that he did not have any anger. And when there is no anger, where is the question of lust? Because anger is called as Kamanuja, the younger brother of lust. So when the younger brother does not exist, sorry, yeah, Kamanuja means the younger brother of lust. So when there is no lust, there is no question of anger. So because there is no anger, so it is concluded that the Supreme Lord Vishnu does not have selfish desires. So similarly, if we are experiencing anger, we all might do at certain times in our lives, probably every day at certain so many times, or sometimes depending on one's advancement. So what we need to become aware when we become angry is we have selfish desires also. Sometimes great personalities can use anger in the service of Krishna. However, we cannot just claim to be so, like to be that advanced that I'm just using anger. We need to know whether we are using anger or anger is using us. What is happening? We have to be very truthful to ourselves to understand. If we see that anger is using us and we are completely getting going under the control of the mode of ignorance or passion through the experience of feeling angry, then we need to understand that we have to be aware of our desires. There are certain things in our hearts, selfish desires or desires which are not helpful, or maybe even that is an unwarranted expectation from others that we might have, which is causing this anger. So first thing we need to be aware is that we have certain expectations and desires. We have to see, are those expectations right? So it is said the main source of misery in this world is to have right expectations from wrong people and wrong expectations from right people. So we always mismatch the people that we need and our expectations. So, and in closing today, we will see how the anger in general is due to the controllership mentality. With spiritual knowledge and spiritual practice, by chanting Hare Krishna, hearing about Krishna, reading about Krishna, and associating with devotees, gradually we will understand that how we are not the controllers. The more we don't understand, we go through a lot of misery, even in the association of devotees. And gradually we come to understand that we are not controllers, we are cooperators. We are cooperators with other devotees, with the world, with our mind, intelligence, senses, and also Krishna, the super soul, with our karma. So it is a total. There is many factors in what is happening in this world. So we need to understand there are more factors in play, especially the factor of the super soul or Krishna. And we are not just the only controllers here doing certain things. So we need to understand everything is happening by the sanction of Krishna, and we are supposed to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. And when the more one's spiritual wisdom and spiritual advancement happens, then this controllership comes down. So then there is a chance of the anger also coming down. And also psychologically, we can understand how we can just suppress it. As practicing devotees, we are not still in a higher stage, so you can just always suppress all your emotions, even anger. So you may be disturbed with someone, you're just holding it, then it will come in a ugly way at a different time, or with the same person at a different time, or with different people at different times. So people can adapt to express in ways that won't aggravate the problem, that won't spoil the relationships. So that is why we need to postpone. And many devotees actually adapt many things. People write, people paint. So many things they express themselves, their angers, which won't aggravate the problem. At the same time, they can express the particular situation confidentially to other devotees and take suggestions, take guidance. And also knowing our triggers, because we are conditioned souls still struggling with our mind and senses. There are certain things which especially when some people do, then immediately it creates anger in us. So then maintain distance either from the people if possible, or from the situations if possible, at least internally if not externally. Try to externally practice some distance, if not at least internally try to distance yourself from those triggers. In itself, this is a big topic. I'm not going into the details. So in this way, we can practically deal with anger, and we can also psychologically deal with anger. And then we can also, the more we practice spiritual life, we chant Hare Krishna and we start to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna, reducing our selfish desires, then gradually the aspect of material anger will come down. And that is also a sign, because the spiritual wisdom is taking away the ignorance, so the identity with false ego is reduced. As per this translation also, we can see anger is coming because of false ego and ignorance, and with spiritual wisdom both ignorance and the resultant false ego is reduced, and when that reduces, anger also reduces. So, to make those enlightened choices, what we need to do is follow the spiritual master and Krishna, the teachings that are given by spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. And in this pastime of Gopashtami, the first time when all the cows are actually very happy that they know from today we are going to go with Krishna and Balaram. Finally, they have been waiting for this day, because the calves have been going out with Krishna, but they never got the opportunity to go with Krishna. So they were wondering if they could ever go back to go with Krishna also. So this is the day of Gopashtami. The cows are extremely happy that they're going to go out with Krishna and Balaram. So all the cows are assembled, and Krishna and Balaram are standing at the back of the herd, but the cows are not moving. The residents of Vrindavan are saying, go ahead, but the cows are not moving, because they are, if they go in the front, they will not be able to see Krishna's darshan. So they are not moving. So understanding their hearts, the Vrajvasis, headed by Nanda Maharaj, they put Krishna and Balram in the front. And when they start walking, that is when all the cows start following them. So because they want to continuously see Krishna. Because generally the cows are kept in the front, because to make sure that the cows don't stay behind when the cow herds are going in the front. But however, here the cows are so spontaneously attracted to Krishna, wherever he is, they are going to move, they are not going to get stuck. And as they are going, they are all relishing the beauty of Krishna. Similarly, if our senses, if they start following Krishna, if they start following Balramji, the representative, the Adi Guru. So if our senses start to act, or if we can discipline our senses based on the instructions of Guru and Krishna, how these cows are following Krishna and Balaram, if we can regulate our senses as per the orders of spiritual master and engage in the service of Krishna, then through that spiritual practice and having a proper attitude, then we will also be able to make the right choices, and those choices will be enlightened based on the spiritual wisdom, spiritual advancement that we have made by following in the footsteps of Guru and Krishna. So praying that on this day of Gopashtami, we can gradually develop the attraction towards Krishna, like how these cows uh, have already achieved spontaneous attraction towards Krishna, to the lotus feet of Krishna and Balram. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Sorry for going over time. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.